Hello, everybody. Welcome to section 2.1, rates of change and tangent lines to curves. So in this section, our first section of calculus material, we're going to look at something that's kind of familiar to start out with. We're going to look at some basic rates of change. And in particular, we're going to look at speed, which is a rate of change that every single one of us has experienced at some point or another. So the formula that we're going to be looking at here is a formula for average speed over some period of time. On your situation there. But the general idea here is that your average speed can be calculated by taking the distance traveled. How far did you go? And then you're going to divide that by the time elapsed. So how far did you go and how long did it take? So this is for average speed, and this is going to be in contrast to another type of speed that we're going to be looking at called instantaneous speed. Instantaneous. There we go, long word. All right, so average versus instantaneous speed. All right, average speed we can see is over a period of time. Instantaneous speed is just at one particular instant. So that's where kind of the instantaneous comes in, one particular instant in time. Okay, so while average looks over a larger period, instantaneous is like right now, one particular instant. Okay, so we can look at this idea with a little example. If you think about traveling 3 miles in 15 minutes. So let's say you're out for a little bike ride or something, and you end up covering 3 miles of distance, and it takes you 15 minutes to do so. Well, from that information, we can get your average speed pretty quickly. All right, so your average speed here, we're going to take your distance traveled, 3 miles, and we're going to divide it by the time that's elapsed, 15 minutes. Okay, and so you could get that, let's see, 3 divided by 15, that would be 1/5 of a mile every minute. Okay, so that would be one way to say your average speed, 1/5 of a mile per minute, or 0.2 miles per minute. Now, we're not quite used to thinking of it speed in miles per minute most of the time, so another way you could do this would be to say instead of 3 miles in 15 minutes, we could use miles per hour instead. So 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. Now we've got it in kind of more familiar units. So 3 divided by 1/4, 3 times 4 would be 12 miles per hour. Okay, so that's a number that might seem a little more relatable, a little more familiar. We're used to seeing things in terms of miles per hour for the most part. So yeah, this says on average in this little bike ride or whatever, you were traveling 12 miles per hour overall. But if you think about it, your speed throughout that entire bike ride was probably not always exactly 12 miles per hour. Maybe when you were starting out on your bike ride, you were a little stiff and you went a little slower at the start, and then you really got into the swing of things, and so you sped up. Maybe you had to stop for a traffic light or a stop sign at some point. So chances are that, yeah, even though this is your average speed, at each instant in time, you probably weren't always going 12 miles per hour. So while this is your average speed, keep in mind that there is a big difference between that and whatever your instantaneous speed may have been. Because your instantaneous speeds may vary quite a bit. All right. Yeah, so let's say at the start of the bike ride, you were going a little slower and you might have gone 3 miles per hour, just kind of starting out a little bit there. If you had to stop at a traffic light, your speed would have been 0 miles per hour at that particular instant. And then let's say you were going down a hill or something or really feeling it and you sped up a lot. Maybe you got up to 20, 25 miles per hour. So during that ride, you might have had a variety of different instantaneous speeds, but it all averages out to an average speed of 12 miles per hour. So there's a big difference between these things. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to look at this in a more mathematical way, relating this idea of average and instantaneous speed to a function.